I'm Josh Sigman, and I'm a mortgage lender. I'm also a geek for money, not just earning it and saving it, but literally everything about it. I love that money has rules. It has its truths. I love investment strategies, and I love making money work for us. For so many, money is emotional. For me, it's logical, like a puzzle. My passion is also helping others with their money. I love looking at people's finances, dissecting their puzzle, and rebuilding with strategy and purpose, and I'm really good at it. I'm making this podcast about my money strategies, not the things that are written in books or sold in programs. It's a podcast outlining the lessons I've learned and used for the past 15 years. These strategies help me and those who use them save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early. Let me teach you how to build your net worth. You ready? Welcome to Sigman Sense. I didn't tell you, I got my first lead yesterday from one of the ones we shared on Facebook. And it's going to... Oh, you already did? Cool. Well, never mind. You're taking away my thunder.
Thunderstoled is what I said.
Because stoled is a real word. Damn it, I forgot my... Just got to do it every month, and you got to do 3 months.
The next podcast should be on vocabulary. Because we be stolen. What'd you forget?
Stays. Collar stays. I don't like it when they're wrinkled.
That's the first thing I noticed.
I know. Whatever.
How are your travels?
I'm tired.
Me too.
I'm not traveling anymore. I'm done.
Forever in life?
For 3 months.
Dang.
I'm not going to branches. I'm not doing shit. I'm 3 months.
Why? What was so tiring about it? That's not like you to say that.
I've just been gone from the kids too much. So.
Yeah, you have. You've been gone, not too much, but like you've been gone a lot.
Yep. So my kids took notice, and I said, I will not travel till February 1st. Okay.
What'd they say?
Thank you.
No. No. Did they say, we just miss you because you've been gone a lot?
No, they said...
what am I doing?
No, they were saying something like, again? Like the other saying, again? Yeah. When are you going to be back this time? How long are you going to be gone this time? So they're taking notice, I guess.
Yeah. There we go. I think that's good, right? This just needs to be pushed. There. Okay. I don't know what happened to it. I was trying to be a gangster.
It's hard to be a gangster.
Because I am kind of a gangster. My alter ego is Snoop Dogg, by the way.
Yeah. All right. I feel much more comfortable now. Thanks for asking. I'm going to take my shoes off. That'll make me feel more comfortable. You don't see my shoes on these, right? Perfect. Don't fuck them up.
This will be the first episode where we shoot our feet.
All right, so I look at this one again. Is that how we're going to do the intro?
We'll do that at the end, so y'all can just...
I'll do it right now. Get it over with. It's easy. It's already rolling. Action!
That was your action.
Right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Sigman Sense. So today we're going to be talking about, you're starting to get some information about money and what to do with money. And we talk a lot about, the idea of budgeting, and there's lots of great ideas out there. But a lot of people struggle with, they don't have a goal. So we started talking a little bit about that already. B, they don't create a plan. Plan typically sounds like a personal family budget, but some sort of plan around money is the second piece. But the third piece is then you've got to implement and execute, right? And that's usually the biggest challenge for a lot of people is if they even have a goal about I'd like to retire by some date or have some money in the bank or save some per month. And now I'm getting a little better at the disciplines around money with budgeting. That's great. The day in and day out, the week in and week out, or the monthly is lacking. And so in business, and you can apply this to both business and your family budget, or any goal for that matter, I came up with a top 10 rules of implementation. And so we're going to go through that today because I want to get people to start getting a little bit more traction around it. So here we go.
Let's do it.
Cool. That's exactly what I kind of said it in the intro as far as what I want to talk about because I'm really clear that, and I've said to some of our coaching students that a goal without a plan is as worthless as a plan without execution. And I think, you've got to have all three. You got to have where am I going? How am I going to get there? And what's the day-to-day rowing the boat?
Yes.
And so today I really want to talk about those rules for implementation. And you and I have both gone through 9 years of business together where, I'd say that we're batting average way better than most. I'd probably say
I would agree.
70% of any goal we've ever put out there we accomplish. Mm-hmm. And there's room for improvement for sure.
Absolutely.
And we have on years and off years, and usually it's one or the other of us needs to be all in, or both of us need to be. But when we really think back, and when I reflected on, what worked and why did it work, we were simply executing more of the rules of implementation than in previous years, right?
Yeah.
So I think that applies to everything, whether it's a weight loss goal, whether it's a money goal, whether it's a business sales goal.
I totally agree. And I think the other piece is being how bought into the plan, the implementation, and the why and the goal in the first place is such a huge deal. And we've talked about in the other episodes too, that at some point when it comes to money, it's usually comes from a place of pain. You've gotten to enough pain with money.
And that's enough of a why to do it.
And that's enough of a why. But that doesn't always have to be the reason either.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it's about you hear enough of the same people say the same things and you just decide like, it's time. Like you want to play with the big dogs. You want to soar.
Yeah.
You want to be great. And so maybe that's enough, is that you're just ready to get in the ring with the big dogs. So tying it to something.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a couple of these points on there specifically talk about that. To me, when you create rules of any kind, it's creating what are the bumpers going to be in your bowling.
I love that.
It's the bumper, right? Because we're going to screw up. We're going to go make an impulse buy. We're going to hire or fire somebody out of emotion. We're going to, chase the shiny new star, whether that be in a purchase of a car that we didn't need or in a sales thing that we're trying to do.
Right.
But if we just have those bumpers up, then we don't screw up too much before we're corrected. And that's why we have to create some of these rules of business and of money. And so, and by the way, feel free to share this episode with people that are just business people, because I absolutely know that it applies to any entrepreneur. I know for sure it applies to any salesperson. I know for sure it applies to anyone that's trying to move the needle because they're not satisfied.
Yeah.
Right? They want to grow and get better in any area of life. And so I want to jump right into it because there's 10 of them and there's plenty to talk about. And I know that we've been averaging an hour and a half.
Yeah, about an hour and a half.
So we'll try and do it in less than an hour and a half for everyone today, but no promises. First one is a clear one for everybody, but make sure all objectives are measurable, time-oriented, and strategic in nature.
Measurable, time-oriented, and strategic. Okay.
So what I mean by this is, you talk to a lot of people in any goal. It might be something along the lines of, I want to lose weight. Okay. I want to retire early. I want to save more. Yeah. And as a business coach and really as a performance coach, I know that those types of statements are completely worthless.
Yeah, it's too loose.
Because it lacks all three of them. And so I kind of want to walk through all three of them because that's kind of the name of the game. So there's no measurement point, as you know. Mm-hmm. So if you want to lose weight, great. My follow-up question is, awesome. How much?
How much, yes. And by when?
If you think about savings, then it's like, great. How much? If you say retirement, by when do you want to retire? Mm-hmm. I want to pay off my credit card debt, by when? And that goes back to the measurable and time orientation. There's got to be a specific number, and ideally should also be tied to a time frame by which you're going to accomplish it. I know we do this a lot in business in general, but when you think about money, do you remember some of the first couple questions our financial planner, because we have the same financial planner.
Yeah.
But do you remember some of the first questions he asked? Because this falls right in line with what are your goals, measurable and specific.
Yeah, I do. And I remember thinking, this is like the coolest thing ever.
I remember you saying that.
Because, I actually had a previous financial planner, and the experience was so incredibly different. And we didn't have this 5 meeting process mapping and process planning to our life, which is really what it boils down to. Is this was like, okay, how are we going to get what we want out of life? And so, some of the things was that he asked, when do we want to retire? Yep. And Randy and I are 6 years apart in age. Randy's 6 years older. And the follow-up question to that was, are y'all going to retire at the same time? Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. And so we kind of laughed, and he said, it may sound weird, but if he retires before you, like, you're going to want to have the option too. Just because you're 6 years younger, you know, you don't want to have to continue working for that reason. So I'm like, sounds good. Like, yes. So retire at the same age. How much, or what is your lifestyle going to be like when you retire? How do you feel about college? Apparently there's a lot of different schools of thought about, some parents feel like we're going to provide all of college. Some parents say half, some say, you know, just room and board. And so really talking through what that looks like for us and what we want to give for our kids. And also another great conversation to have that we probably didn't have before we started having kids, right? Yep. Luckily we had the same feelings about it, but so those were some main ones. Gosh, what am I missing? There were so many, great stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about, you know, we're condensing into a 2-minute section, but there was 5 meetings, each an hour, at least an hour length, all of them.
Risk tolerance was a big one.
Yeah. But what it really came down to was what he was trying to boil down to when you're talking about money, which is conceptually a big idea. How do you take this big concept and boil it down to something that we all individually understand? It's the real answer comes down to, at what age do you want to retire? With how much money do you want to retire? Because that money pays how much per month based on how much you need to live off of, plus fluff, right? And when you really boil it down to, I want to retire whatever the age is. I want to retire by age 50. I want to retire with $2 million in the bank because I know $2 million in the bank with a 4% tax-free bond investment will get me about $80,000 per year, tax-free, separate of Social Security. I hope it's around, but it's not guaranteed.
Right.
So the real question is, based on the inflation issues that there are, can you live off of today's $40,000 income in tomorrow's dollars, which is about $80,000?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And if not, now we have something that's specific and measurable and time-oriented by when we're going to do this, that he then backs into, well, then how much do you have to save? You know, I know some of the questions that we should all ask ourselves are we on track? Are we behind track? Are we ahead of track? Right? Based on your past and present savings habits, based on your past and present debt loads that you've carried, right? And when you really get into that piece and you really start to knuckle down on what is it really going to take, instead of this big concept of I'd like to retire, I'd like to lose weight, all these stupid things that people say, it goes down to, no, I need to save $1,000 a month, or whatever it is.
Literally like building out a roadmap for it. Yep. It was pretty crazy to look at the numbers, but you know, when you have a roadmap and then he goes all the way down to what that looks like today, what that looks like each month. Oh,
yep. And I'll tell you that this is where the strategy comes in, because if you set aside $50 a month and you're 65 years of age and you want to retire at age 70 with $1 million in the bank, you're going to be screwed unless you're inheriting. Like, if that's part of the plan, great. Wait for mama to die. That's not a great plan, but it is some people's plans, right? And so when you think about it, this is why I add in that key element of, is it strategically a good idea? The plan that you're following, is it a strategically good one? Does it give you the best chance of success? You can really back into it. So let me just give you something that one of my mentors, Rick, taught me not too long ago, called the wealth escalator. And it's a super easy formula to think about. And you can take this and multiply by 5 or 10, it doesn't matter, or by half. But money saved over time value of money is a real thing. So we know that the earlier somebody starts saving, the better off they are, right? Yep. But just an easy math formula for everyone to think about is, if you save $1,000 a month for 20 years, that's 240 months. That's $240,000 you save. In 20 years, saving $1,000 a month. That's it. Okay. Which most people in America do have the ability to pinch and steal and borrow to make ends meet to be able to save $1,000. Okay. So depending on your rate of return, depending on how you invest it, whether it's invested poorly or not, or timing the market, the last 11 years have been amazing. But yes, there are recessions too, right? You can expect your money to do anything between double and quadruple in money in that same period of time. So the easiest way to say it is, if you save $1,000 a month for 20 years, you can expect somewhere between $480,000 and $960,000 in retirement. Just $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month.
You do $2,000 a month, you can expect between $1 million and $2 million in retirement if it's done over 20 years. So that's what's called that wealth escalator, because what you're looking at is when you put that money aside, is there a plan and is it in alignment? Because some people that just heard that said, Josh, that's great, but I'm 50 and I don't want to retire when I'm 70. This comes back to the strategy. So is the goal that you're actually saving in the first place going to get you the result that you're hoping for in the first place? If not, then what needs to change, right? Because there's strategy involved, not just a hope and a prayer of I'll save as much as I can, because let's be honest, it's never enough. Right. Or I'll pay down as much debt as I can each month, which again is never enough, because there's not a really well thought out strategy of what's the end goal.
But there's also like going at it that route, I feel like doesn't give you the reward that you should.
Oh my, you got to love the grind. That's part of it, right?
Like there's not a definite moment where you can stop and celebrate, because it's a huge deal and it's hard what you're doing. So, by just being loosey-goosey with the plan, you're missing everything that's going to get you the motivation to keep going, which is a huge piece of it.
Which kind of goes into some of these other ones. So shall we continue?
Sure, we shall.
Okay, cool. So number 2, and I think this is something we've done better in our business than most, but when it comes to money, I know some families do something, they create visual aids.
Yeah.
Right? So at home or at work, whether you do a vision board, or, you just, we'll get into tying it to goals in the future, but.
Or like a bucket list.
Yeah, bucket list. Like when I retire, I want to do this, or I want to achieve that, or I want to buy this for myself, I want to have this Corvette. Like people have weird things associated with money. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it is, as long as it's in alignment and doesn't take away from you achieving your end goal, which is retirement. But visual aids do work,
Absolutely.
Is there something that, I'm just curious, I don't know, is there something that's up in your office or at the house that is a visual aid that helps keep you centered around money? We
actually need to redo it. And the reason I know why we need to redo it is because we're at the point where we need to start working towards something else. And we're adding vacations and cooler vacations and things that, that are going to take a little bit more effort and focus to accomplish. And so probably 3 years ago, we, as a family, did a bucket list. And it was so fun to hear some of the things that the kids put on there. Like KK's, I want to ride in a limo. Like just fun stuff like that. And, and then there were some destinations that, we as parents wanted to take the kids on. So
what percentage of those have you accomplished?
I don't have an exact percentage. I'm terrible about that, but it is so cool. KK's definitely ridden in a limo. I would say if I had to guess, probably a third of the things that we put down have already been done. And so we need to revisit it, and
hopefully you're not a third of the way done with your life. Like hopefully you got a lot more than that, right?
Heck no. You can keep adding on, and we learn new things that we want to do, and we have new passions. And so that's why it needs to be updated, because I
love that.
Yeah. It's fun to.
And here's exactly why I brought this up. I'm glad that you had an illustration there at work. Everyone that's close to me knows I've got my top 4 priorities are framed every year next to my desk. I cannot sit down without seeing it every single day. Yeah. Anyone that asks me, hey, what are you working on this year? I can just rattle it off, because it's the same 4 things that I'm working on. But it's a visual aid, and it's front and center. I think it's super, super important to do it. Things that you write down, that you put in front of you. Some people are more creative like you, that think in pictures, like to see the visual aid of the destination or a picture of the limo or whatever. I just need the statement personally, because I like to read, and I retain better reading. And so I just have my 4 statements side by side, and I just read it all the time. And it's like a permanent fixture that's been burned in my eyeballs. Like I can close my eyes and still see all 4 of them. But it works, because what I do think, and this goes back to the top 10 rules for implementation, you're not going to implement something you forget about. And the truth behind goals and plans for most people is, if they create a goal in the first place, which we know most people don't do, and then if they take the second step of creating a plan, working a personal family budget, doing the stuff because they made that decision through pain or otherwise, invariably life happens They put that goal or plan somewhere that's not seen.
Can't see it.
And they wake up 3 months later, 5 months later, and they're wondering why they're off course. And it's like, holy crap, I spent all that time and we were doing so well. I mean, how many times have you said in your own mind, I know I for sure said, man, I was doing so well. And then I started eating junk food again.
And then we went on vacation.
Right.
Then we were off for a week or whatever. Yes. The other way I use visual aids in my life is through whiteboarding. Mm-hmm. It is such a real thing for me.
You have a problem.
I legit, like, I am the reason that whiteboard companies
go into Bryn's
business.
office and you'll know what she's talking about. There's a list for a list for a list for a list on the board. It's like, I don't know.
And then go to my house. They are everywhere. And the way that I use whiteboards is we have daily things that go on the whiteboards. We have weekly things, and we have monthly things, and we have yearly things. So it just requires a lot. Okay.
Super organized, OCD, whatever.
So the thing about the whiteboards and the way to use them is the things that go on the daily whiteboard, make sure that once you write those down, that they are in alignment with ultimately the big goal, right?
Yep.
The yearly goal. Then whatever's on the weekly whiteboards is in reflection of the yearly. So everything ties back together. And this goes from, I mean, we're talking about money, but this is how you stay on track with just life in general, right? You want to like really play at a big level and make people wonder like how the hell you get so much done. Mm-hmm. I mean, finding a way you got to map it out, because you can't just wake up every day and go, "Ooh, I wonder what's going to happen."
Yep.
Like, who's taking who to the practices? What parties do we have? What needs to be done? Who's working out when? All of those things, because those little bite-sized pieces is what's going to land you.
Yeah. I love you brought that up, because at least two of these specifically talk about that. But what you just said is so interesting. I'm a weirdo, like watch YouTube videos all the time of motivational speakers and things like that. So whether it's The Rock or Vanderchuck or whatever, these people they run not one company. By the way, they're not working for it. They're running like 10 or 20 or 50, and they have the same 40 hours a week. And in some cases, fewer than 40 hours a week, because they are more organized and they're doing what's in alignment with the long-term goals, right? So you have to apply this to, you absolutely have to apply this towards your money as well. And the visual aids is just one of those components that if you can keep it front and center, it's hard to avoid it. It's so weird to me that people that want to lose weight don't get on the scale more often, right? Like, the scale's not lying to you. It's not just off today. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're overweight today. That's the answer. So you get on the scale every single day. You look at it. It's a visual representation of the reality of the moment. And it's in alignment or it's not in alignment with the goal, and you'll work on it or you won't. But don't lie to yourself. And some people say, well, I'll work out for a month and they'll get on the scale. It's like, just get on the scale, start a measuring point.
Well,
take
and
a look
the other
at
thing too is like, if someone, specifically for weight, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to work out. Mm-hmm. If you're not measuring it every single day, then you could get to the end of the month and have not lost a pound.
Yep.
Because we know that specifically when it's tied to weight loss, food is going to be such a big factor of that. So if you're on the scale every day and you realize nothing's happening, then you can correct the plan way sooner and not get that burnout feeling at the end of 30 days of working your butt off to literally not work your butt off. Get it? Get it? So I want to ask this though. So with a visual aid in money, like, what, I know you said statements is what works for you, but give us some examples of things that would be good to put on a visual aid. Yeah.
So I think you can start as early as the first thing in the morning. So that I've had the same daily affirmation on a Post-it note in my office since I've known you, since before that. I think it's 12 years now.
I love my job. All the Post-it.
I love my job. I love my job. I love my job. And just have fun today on a freaking purple Post-it note.
Yeah.
It's purple. I don't like purple. I just see it and I know I don't have to read it anymore. It's been 12 years on my desk.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you see it and it's like, and it's literally like a ratted out piece of paper. I mean, it's almost garbage now.
Yeah.
But that's an example. So you can start with daily affirmations. Visual aids could be, again, we're keeping the money. So what the money represents for you, right? So pictures could be anything from, maybe you've never owned a house before and you want to own that house, that you want to have the American dream for your kids and for yourself. So you just have a picture of the house, like literally drive around. It's actually remarkably fun to do this. drive around to the neighborhood that you want to live in one day and find the house in the neighborhood that you want to live in one day and take a picture of it and leave it in your bathroom and see what happens over time.
That's cool.
Like,
yeah.
it's just an example. For me, like I said, it's a specific measurable thing that matters. So if I tied it to business, it could be as simple as units, income, volume. But there's those numbers literally written down. When it comes to savings, going back to the rule of 30, 30, 10, 30, if you have a specific savings or giving, that my giving goal drastically changed drastically. Excuse me.
Like that. I like
yeah,
that.
Dramatically.
Dramatically.
I just created a new word.
That works.
Write that one down. I want to keep that one. I want to copyright that. So it dramatically changed my business when I started focusing on the giving side as opposed to the earning side, right? So that became front and center for me. For other visual aids,
could you? I wonder
notes,
if putting down writing down your bumpers. If you're looking for a weekly thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe your eat out allowance is 2 times per week or a dollar amount. And so then at the end of the week, you can say, okay, did we stick to our...
We're going to definitely cover that. That's absolutely right. But no, you're fine. Yeah. I love it. It makes me happy because I try not to prep you for this because I want you to have the real conversation back. And I love that you're talking about at least half of them. So it's spot on. I mean, it's why we've done so well. But when you really go back to answering your question directly, adding calendared questions or reminders is a visual aid. So many of us, almost all of us now carry smartphones, but very few people use it. So if a calendar is a reflection of your priorities, and the reason why you work is to retire or to live, not live to work, work to live. Which way do you fall and which way do most people fall? Then why wouldn't you put a reminder, a pop-up on your calendar, which is a visual reminder of whatever, like just budget review. Like just once a month, a pop-up budget review, which is on this list as well. All those things, just keep it front and center. That's why the visual aid is so important. Whether it's a frame, something on your desk, a whiteboard in your home office, or a picture in your bathroom on the mirror.
For sure, I love that.
Like the suit that you wear. The jewelry that you buy, the car that you drive. Again, I'm not a material guy. I'm just not personally drawn to that stuff. But a lot of people are.
Yeah.
One of my coaching students, a guy named, he's way more than that at this point. He's one of my best friends in the world, and he actually coaches alongside of me now. So he's just one of the best guys in the world. When I started working with him about 7 years ago, for whatever reason, he's a car guy and he wanted a Ferrari, right? And he had a picture of a Ferrari, and I remember going out to an event to meet with him in California, and it's not too far from Palm Deserts where we were, and it's not too far from where his house was. And we're in the lobby, and he said, "Hey, dude, I want you to come outside and drive something for me." I said, "What are you talking about?" And we literally walk out there, and he had gotten this Ferrari, and I was looking, I was like, "Holy crap!" And he'd shown me a picture of a Ferrari just like that one years earlier.
Yeah.
So things just when it's top of mind and it's a visual thing, for a lot of people, it just happens over time because you're constantly making choices in alignment.
With
right? With long-term goals.
And I think the last thing I want to say about this is getting as many people involved with it as you can. I don't know if that's on the list or not.
Oh, number 3. Let's move on. Number 3.
Number 3. Oh, segue superhero.
That's right.
Okay.
Don't keep it a secret. Have accountability partners. Use coaches. Something. My God.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this one because I know we had an entire episode on the emotion around money, right?
Yeah.
But my God, people think money is a taboo subject. I mean, the way people do or don't talk about money is it's right in alignment with don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't talk about sex, don't talk about money. It's
That's the word on the
listen,
street.
I got young kids. I need to talk about sex, and I want to make sure that they make good decisions, not bad decisions. I don't want the world to happen to me, so I do want to talk about politics because I do have a point of view, and I want other people to understand my point of view. So more of stuff goes my way long term, right?
Yeah.
And religion, I believe in it. So I'm going to spread the gospel. It's okay. But when it comes to money, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
You got to be able to talk to, or in that last episode, what you brought up, which is spot on, is whatever your parents' view of money is typically what your view of money is and what your kids' view of money is. And if you look at that and it's unhealthy, you got to break the cycle. The way you break the cycle is to talk more. A key component, in my opinion, is just being inquisitive.
I love that.
Just ask more questions. How many times can you watch the news and all of a sudden something about the stock market comes up, and what does the average person do?
Changes the channel.
Like, I don't understand that crap, so let me just, here's an idea. Just watch it. And maybe you pick up one little thing. Just be inquisitive. Going back to, I don't want people to work their entire lives and every January be the same or worse off.
Oh,
why take the time I'd rather you be a happy bum on a beach with your kids.
Fact of life,
hang out with your kids all day, every day. But if you're not inquisitive, and this goes back to the accountability partnership. So,
so I think, especially around money, getting the entire family involved is huge. Yep. And in the bucket list example, have your kids put stuff on there and talk to them about saving and talk to them about how much things really cost. I also gave the example of, Walker, my 6-year-old, wanting to watch a movie that was all of a sudden costing $3.99. I didn't want to pay that. You've seen it 100 times. Chances are you're not going to watch the entire thing anyway. Mm-hmm. So, Walker, it's $4. Do you have $4 to spend on this movie?
And do you want to?
And do you want to? Because that's going to give me a good indicator of where his... Mm-hmm. But it also is now planting the seed to him that, okay, now he has a decision to make. And things don't come free. And a lot of times there's no money tree? Exactly. I know. Dang it. That's what we need to get on.
Invent that thing. You'll be fine.
Invent that thing. And when they want to sign up for stuff, dance classes, extra baseball practices, hitting practices.
Oh my God.
Like all those things, talking about how much money it costs. And I've really started using the phrase, we are living in a matched effort world. We're going to play matched efforts. If I'm going to match, or if I'm going to bring $60 a lesson to the table, you better bring $60 worth of effort
or more
to the practice, because
I love that.
It's a lot of money when you start adding it up. It's a lot of money no matter what. Like $60 for 1 hour of learning how to swing a bat. It's a lot of money. So how bad do you want it? And you better bring it.
Matched effort. I've never heard that before. I like that.
If you're bringing it, I'll keep bringing it. But I think that's a good way to kind of, because they get carried away, right? We all get carried away. So if I want to be better, I need to add this practice. I need to add this practice. And, are we doing it for the right reasons? Are you getting better? Or is it just because? So that's a phrase I've started using a lot. And it's good. It's a good, hey, we're getting off track. I'm not feeling like the effort's not being matched. So this is make an adjustment really, really quickly, or we're going to stop doing it.
Very cool.
And that kind of.
Well, to tie up this one on the don't keep it a secret thing. So talk to your kids about it. Absolutely. You have to turn in a personal family budget to me once a month. Mm-hmm. I am that accountability partner or coach. I'm a grown-ass man, and I've made plenty of money, and I've saved plenty of money. I still turn in a personal family budget to a coach because
I love that.
I've been doing it for 15 years straight. It is without exception. I get fined if I don't turn it in. It's a fine to charity, but I do get fined.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I just do it, and there's a couple emotional components that come out of it. Number one, so many of us, I know you are, I know I am, are pleasers. I don't want to let my coach down. So if my coach says, hey, dude, do better here, whether that be, you spend a little bit too much eating out, or whether that be, you could be more generous, give away a little bit more money. I don't want to let them down. So I typically just do the work the next time around. Right.
Yeah.
Because, I do know in my life, that there have been moments, and some of those moments, long moments, where I disguise complacency as contentment. Okay? So what I mean by that is I'm content. I've got enough. I make enough. I save enough. So I don't pay as much attention when really it's not contentment. I am complacent. I disguise it, but I'm being complacent. And complacent's the devil's work. When you get complacent, you start doing lots of frivolous stuff. It's when you start to feel bad. You start doing crazy spending habits again. I probably drink too much when I'm in that mindset.
In your world, what do you consider crazy spending habits? What does that look and feel like?
Whenever I pay a credit card bill and I can't recall anything that matters that I bought that I still have.
Okay.
To me, that's just unacceptable. like I get it. You don't get to get buried with the money. Awesome. So if you've done a great job and you want to buy yourself a new business suit or, upgrade your ring or get that nice piece of jewelry once a year, I'll be the last person to say don't do that, as long as it's not at the expense of your long-term goals, right? So if I believe in you must save 30% in my 30-30-10-30, there's a rule at the end we talk about where it's really 20% is a bare minimum, but I'd rather focus on the goal, not the bare minimum, right? Then if I save 30 or 31 or 32% or 33%, then all of a sudden it's really easy to get complacent, right? Because I did enough. But the way I've started to reframe that thought process for myself is, am I being a good steward of the blessings that God gave me? Right? Like just because I've got the money doesn't mean I've got the right to blow it.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I can't be accountable to and account for the money I spent, I know I got complacent. As opposed to when I say, like I'm an experienced guy. So my mom and dad taught me years ago, like one thing, you'll get a lot of presents that you'll never remember, but there's a lot of places you'll get to go in your lifetime that you will remember to the day you die.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in if you're going to spend some money, spend on an experience. Again, not at the expense of your long-term money goals, retirement goals. But if you've got the extra room, that's where I want to do it because I can absolutely say, taking the kids on that long weekend to the beach absolutely is worth whatever it costs because I still saved my 30%.
Because you still saved it.
Right. I saved my 30%. So maybe I didn't save 34 like I could have. I saved 30, 30, right? But that 4% was accounted for because, hey, I had a experience with my kids that they'll never be able to get again, nor could I. That was worth that extra bit of money.
So if you're not saving 30%.
Now you got to make better choices. Because there's areas in your budget typically, in everyone's budget, again, 20% minimum, 30% goal. But there's areas in everyone's budget where you could have it all. You could save and get those experiences.
So what do you do until then?
Well, this goes back to step 1, 2, and 3 of our first episode when it goes down to start budgeting, create a goal, talk about it, create a plan, and start executing it. And this goes back to if you're executing well, you will have more choices. So
what's the scenario then? So you're grinding, you're doing the best you can. You're starting to save some money, but you still don't have the money available to even go on vacation at all, whether it be drive down to the beach or whatever. Obviously, we're in Texas. We can drive down to the beach fairly easily. But in your mind, it is so earned and it is so justified. Justified is a better word that most people use. It's not really earned. We kid ourselves that it's deserved, right? And then justify that we've earned it. Right. But like, what do you do there? Like, how do you reward yourself, right? Like, how do you? Right. So this goes back to the whole deferred gratification conversation. This goes back to, another step on here where you create rewards and consequences. So rewards are big. I believe that. But what I see a lot of people do, which is bizarre to me, is they will buckle down and they'll save for 5 months. They did great. And now it's summer. And they literally go do some crazy ass trip to some foreign place that they shouldn't have gone to in the first place. And not only is it not out of savings, it's out of future earnings. So they go backwards and they basically undo everything that they just done so well at for 5 months. Card, right? I mean, right, that's what I'm saying. Right. They just do it because they justified it. I've been working really hard. I've been grinding on my budget. It's not in alignment. Like here's a better way to say it. If you make the plan up front, then you're probably going to have a vacation account like I know you do. Right. So if you plan out that, okay, if my income is X and I want to save Y, then I've got Z that I could set aside for vacation and I'll set aside until I can do it. But here's the budget for it. And it's a thought out, non-emotional number. It's a budget amount. And then there are lots and lots and lots of trips and experiences and things to buy yourself that fall within that number. Right. But what people don't do, or what they do more often, is they make an emotional buying decision. So something flops in their chair, like they get a random vacation invite
from an old friend, and it sounds like a lot of fun and hits you at the right time because you haven't been on a vacation in a while.
Right.
It wasn't planned out, and you're like, hell yeah, sign me up. And then all of a sudden you're way past whatever budget is even in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish. So
if you're in the middle of the grind, you're not quite there yet. You have maybe haven't established a vacation account.
Number 3 solves this. You realize that, right?
Then you defer it. Well, you continue to defer it. So what do you do to reward yourself?
Let me just answer this directly. Number 3, fix it. If you have a real coach, you would ask for permission. I get calls all the time from around the nation, from my coaches, my students, and my former students that literally say, hey, Josh, I'm thinking about buying this. We're going here. We're doing this.
I know. I've asked that. I'm like, okay, we're saving all this money. Like, when do I get to use it?
Right. But
I get to use it?
Number 3 is it's not in a vacuum. That's the whole idea. It's like, what are you missing, or what's the angle that I didn't think of? You don't know what you don't know. And the coach, I quite often will say, hell yeah. Like, look what you've saved here to date. You're talking about spending this much. Do it.
Or out of this account, like, you use this. So it's
right. But that goes back to, we're super private individuals. Money is taboo. We should never talk about it. I'm certainly not going to ask a friend's opinion about it, right? Because that would be weird.
Right.
So it goes back to find that accountability partner or coach around money and ask them for help, and they'll give it to you, right? Just make sure it's a trusted advisor.
The other thing about the coaches that, so it just came up, we're making our calendars for the next year as a team and in our family. And Katie asked, are you and Randy getting back on the calendar for budget? And I'm like, yes. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, you literally are stuck with us for the rest of your life because we have to have that 30, 45 minutes to an hour every month.
Here's the beautiful thing about that people need to understand, though. I'm not actually coaching on your money for 45 minutes.
No,
exactly. I used to. What the truth of the matter is that if you have to turn it into me, the work's done.
It just has to be done.
It forces the requirement to actually do the work and do the budget. It forces you to look at it. And then once every third time we get together now, you'll say, hey, what about this? Or I'll catch something that, hey, this is starting to get a little bit out of line. You should relook at your 401k balances or whatever. It's the one thing that sticks out to me.
And then it gives us time for some strategy,
That's like accountability right there.
When all of our cars blew up and it was time to, it's like,
do we buy used? Do we buy new? When do we buy? What's my budget? How much I spend?
And then KK is going to be 16 in, 6 months. So time to build in that strategy. And then the other thing, like you pointed out, was it's an outsider's point of view that can see things that when you're in it, you're not quite seeing. So what's happening in this area specifically? And then it'll cause us to stop and think, what the hell is that? Or what is going on right there? And so it can help us navigate. And again, it removes that emotion when we can just submit to the process, turn it in, let somebody that's great at it be the leader. That makes it way easier. I love that. So,
well, let's move on to number 4. And it's something you accidentally brought up earlier, but I love that you brought it up because it's so true. Number 4 is you've got to create a weekly report to track your activities. Okay. So where does this come in? And by the way, like I said, you can apply this to business as a whole, but it absolutely applies to money as well. Really what it comes down to is, depending on what system you're using, maybe you're using a cash system, maybe you're still using the convenience of a credit card. But on a weekly basis, it should be pass-fail, right? So let's just say that in your plan to your spouse, you committed to spending no more than $100 a week on other stuff, random stuff.
Is this like your F-off money?
F-off, right. Okay. Yep. Then at the end of the day, you should look into your bank account and see, have I spent 100 or have I spent 300 of that $400? Right? Have I spent 50 or have I spent
deficit? Right? You could be, how early in the month you be begging for more allowance?
Right. But it goes back to that reminder to stay on top of it. If it goes back to credit card usage as a whole, there's certain things that we perceive as we have to have it, right? So the only examples I could say that for sure should go on a credit card or could go on one that you have to have, gas is just one of those things. You're going to pay for it. But the other things that we say we need are optional. Credit card use at fast food for the kid, fast food drive-thrus, all that stuff. Like, how about you take a look every week so it doesn't just surprise you at the end of the month and you find out, holy crap, I spent $1,000 on eating out this month for my family of 5.
And I'm not going to pay the credit card bill at the
right,
end of the month.
Right. Versus, okay, we need to eat in next week. Yep. The whole idea is the shorter the unit of measurement, the more likely you are to achieve the outcome, right?
Yes.
So not once a year. Ideally, once a month is better than once a year. But if you can break it down to a weekly report card, then you're going to be better off. I've said it 1,000 times in my business coaching that you don't have to win every inning of the World Series to win the World Series. You just have to win most of them, right? And so you can have some fails. But if you have that fail, it's like getting on the scale. You're on the scale, take a look. Hey, 2 pounds overweight. I don't know what happened. Okay, here's an idea. You know exactly what happened, but you can change your behaviors next week because you made some bad choices this week.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that's, the shorter unit shorter units of measure is absolutely key.
The number 5 you spoke on briefly as well, but I do want to spend more time on this because 5, I'm going to read 5 and 6. I'm going to read 5, 6, and 7 together because I'm going to read them out, but they all kind of correlate, and it makes more sense if I do all with the beginning with the end in mind.
Okay.
Number 5 is add an event to your calendar or add calendar events that are once a time calendar events that are pop-ups. We talked about that earlier. This would be specifically the once a month that you're going to review your budget with your spouse.
Gotcha.
This would be the once a month that you're going to pay all your bills. This would be anything that needs to be on a monthly basis. It could be a once a month phone call if you have a financial planner. Call your financial planner to review activity over the last 30 days. Just that if you have a financial planner or a 401k, somebody's helping you manage that 401k, the reality is if you were just to call that financial planner once a month, I guarantee you get better results than just getting the reports once a year from them. Because you're the one client that does call them every month because you give a crap. It forces them to give a crap, and they're going to just simply take better care of you and watch your money. Why wouldn't you want the babysitter watching the kids?
Right. And I thought that they would be the one to do that.
Oh yeah, you and the other 1,000 clients they've got. He worries and remembers everything about all your money, right?
Right. I'm just like, I figured he's watching it. Like, why do I need to watch it? Yeah, they don't. You absolutely have to be the one
very few,
that calls and has those conversations. So, didn't know that.
Yeah, so
PSA.
So put those on the calendar. Which number was the number 5? Number 6, though, and the 6 and 7 kind of go into what I want to spend more of the time talking about. One of those, whatever you title it, I don't care if it's the review. This might fall under the review with your spouse, but this is a monthly strategic review, and that's the key word here because after number 6, what I put down for number 7 is you've got to ask yourself 4 questions. The 4 questions in this monthly recurring strategic review, which is 5, 6, and 7 kind of added up together when you really get down to it, is you've got to ask yourself, I believe 4 questions, and this works in business and with money both, really in all areas. If it's strategy that we care about, and we're caring about executing the plan, then at some point, often we've got to review the results to figure out, is this plan a good plan for what we're trying to achieve? Right? Yeah. So the 4 questions that I always ask are, what is working? So let's just say that, God bless you, you finally sat down with your spouse and you made the first budget ever last month. Well, when you do your first budget, you're going to guess a little bit. There's some truth to that. Like you're going to go off of what you remember, but you didn't track everything prior to this typically.
Exactly.
So you're going to kind of recreate a lot of stuff. And let's just say that you wrote down that your family of 5 requires $600 a month for food bills combined between eating out and buying food to feed everyone, $600 a month. Okay. And let's just say that was with the best intentions. You thought it was the right number. Well, at the end of the month, you sit down and look at this. And so the first question is, what is working? Well, the answer to the budget for your rent is probably spot on. The answer to your budget for your car is probably spot on. Gas, pretty close always. So that's working. But what's not working is the second question. Well, what's not working is you spent $800 on eating and eating out, not $600. Right. So what's not working? Well, that's not working. The best laid plans was I was going to save that minimum of 20%. Mm-hmm. But 2 months in a row, strategic review, I didn't save 20%. Yeah. My best laid plans was by February 1st, I was going to fully fund my float account. And here we are, it's March 1st, and I'm not even halfway there. Yeah. So what is working, you pay attention to because you want to know what to not change.
Right.
Right? What's not working, though, you don't make knee-jerk reactions because just because it's not working yet doesn't mean the plan's not sound. Right?
Okay.
It just might take longer than you thought to achieve it. Right? So you did some math wrong. God knows that
Right.
a lot of people aren't math whizzes in the world. I'm not pointing at you.
Yeah, what do you mean?
But you might have underestimated the amount of time it's going to take, or you forgot to withhold taxes from your income, so you thought you were going to be able to save more each month than you really could. So when it's not working, there's 2 follow-up questions. So here's the total of 4. What's working? What's not working? The first follow-up question is, what might I need to add? The second one is, what might I need to subtract or change? Right? In this plan, in this strategic plan, in this budget, in this long-term, this is going to help me retire by age 55, whatever the number is, right? You've got to ask your questions on a monthly basis because life happens. Life does change. I remember specifically that we had created a budget around 2 kids. We did this. Turns out God had a different plan for us. We have, thank God, we got Presley, but we got 3 kids.
Yeah.
We didn't change the budget for whatever reason on our eating out for like 6 months.
Yeah.
and I'm really good at budgeting. I'm really good. And I was getting pissed that
Why
we kept
can't
on
we hit this
blowing the
number?
budget on eating food and eating out. And it wasn't until about 6 months later we were just chit chatting, and Chrissy reminded me, she's like, you never gave that area a raise, an adjustment. There was no area change for the food budget, and it's like, oh my God, But thank God we talk about it often. But you think about how many life changes happen. Some people, mine don't, but some people have private school. Well, private school costs change each year, right? It ratchets up. Gotcha. So you might set your budget at a certain amount, but 3 years later, you're like, how am I blowing this one? Oh yeah, it goes up every year. Okay, great. But you have to change the budget.
Yeah.
Same thing with the savings or spending. If you're not hitting the savings goal, then you're still spending too much based on your income. So at some point you have to slash and burn the expenses even more than you thought you did. Even if you're doing a good job, you got to do better, because strategy is about with the end in mind. Is this strategy that I'm executing going to get me the desired result or not? And I've got to stop to think about this.
So if you don't, is it really the first step then to get with a financial planner? Is that kind of what
Yes and no.
You think? Because how else do you figure out how much you need?
Yeah, so I encourage it. I think most financial planners will meet with anyone for free the first time. And so if nothing else, you get a free education. So I'd absolutely encourage that. I don't think that necessarily a college student that might be listening to this needs to go talk to a financial planner. The first step is track everything. I mean, to answer your question, the first step is track everything. You have to come up with a goal, and you're working towards a goal of some sort. But once you start,
maybe your first goal is to track everything. So then when you go to answer these questions, so what's working? I actually freaking tracked everything.
Cool. Exactly right.
What's not working? Well, I don't have accurate numbers. And then what do I need to add? You can do a direct comparison because now you have the ability to track. And then what needs to change? Obviously, you can take a look at that. So that in and of itself is accomplishing the goal for this moment in time. What
is or should be changed or could be changed, right? Like another easy, small example, because everyone's thinking in terms of retiring at age 55 or whatever. But let's just say that you go back to your bartender days that we talked about before, mine as well. Take this money aside, put it away, don't touch it, right? Well, you might become a better bartender over a couple of years. So your take home ends up going up and up and up. You might be a great employee. So over time, your income goes up. You've been saving this amount of money consistently. Great job. But could you ratchet up by $100 a month? Yeah. So that's another change. A lot of strategy is I want to get here by this time, but what's wrong with getting there faster? Right? I mean, at the end of the day, financial freedom would be, if I have the choice to retire today, but I still choose to work to 55, that's financial freedom, right?
Right.
So we're going to work towards that goal. But in the strategy review, part of the changing might not necessarily be from a negative connotation. It's like, wow, I'm doing better than I thought I was. I need to adjust up my goals.
Right.
Right. Or I need to adjust up my savings because I can. And God knows if it stays in my checking account, it's going to be spent.
It will be spent.
So I just need to.
That's a good, I mean, that right there talks about, changing your 401k allocation.
Yep.
Or whatever it's called. Allocation.
That's right.
Yeah. Like every year they give you the opportunity. Now's the time. Like
you want to put more aside.
If you want to put more
and you want to
aside.
max that out, bottom line. Yeah. And I said in a different podcast as well, when I'm a home loan lender, right? If you want to find out if you can afford comfortably a bigger house, start paying the bigger house payment now on your current mortgage.
Yeah.
Or if you're renting right now, great. Then set the extra. If you're renting for $1,200 a month and you want to hopefully buy a house, it's going to be about $1,500 a month. Start saving the extra $300, putting in a savings account. It'll be your down payment. But get used to that higher payment because you can ratchet it up and ratchet it up and ratchet it up and ratchet it up.
Yeah.
It's a forced savings habit. It's getting the habit of playing that game we like to talk about.
Right.
Of don't do it one time. Let it sit in a vacuum. Add in those visual aids like we talked about. Have somebody that you talk to. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? So you're not making decisions in a vacuum. Have that monthly recurring strategy meeting set up on your calendar and other key monthly things like when you're going to pay your bills and all that stuff. Then actually think about what's working, what's not, what should we change or not. This is how a game is played.
This is how a game is played.
You
Absolutely.
don't just do it and just watch, you don't go to Vegas and watch the die roll and that's what, you get invested.
Yeah.
I hate using roulette like a good example because a horrible example. Don't use roulette as your example. But there's red and there's black, and I see people walk up all the time. There's green too, by the way. You walk up and you see, it's been red over and over again. Certainly can't be red again. I'll just bet all my money on black, right?
Yeah.
So you don't just leave it, is my point. You don't leave it in place and just never touch it. You mess with it. You got to mess with it a little bit. Play the game.
I love that. And because I think if we are, if we have people listening that are college age, mm-hmm. and then all the way up to, 60 plus, 65 plus, finding that point of what is the goal right now? Like, what is the first step? Mm-hmm. And being comfortable with knowing that this is, one, it's going to change. Mm-hmm. Two, it's a right now goal. Let's just get there first. And then adding on the next step of it, understanding that the long term, the big picture is the big picture. It's much, it's much broader. But breaking it down into bite-sized pieces is way easier to handle because I know it's really hard, even though I'm 35 now, it's still really hard for me to connect with being 65 and retiring.
But you're going to get there.
I'm going to get there, but it's hard from a motivation standpoint. And I have to assume that people feel this way, especially the younger people, that retirement, what? Like, no, we're just in it to work. We're just here to work right now, and we'll worry about that later.
There's a whole group of people out there that are all about, hey, don't work, travel the world for 10 years, live off a shoestring budget, do it with people that you love being with, and then I'll get around to it. And I'm not sure that's not a great happiness plan. I am for sure, I know for sure that they're going to be on a major uphill battle to ever be able to retire because the longer it takes for you to start your savings habit, the worse off you are. Time matters.
I can't even imagine.
People do that.
I know. I think it's amazing. Yeah. My OCD personality, would really love to be able to release in that way, and go and do. Super cool. But anyway, I don't know. Just a complete side note. But yeah, so I think it's hard to connect with. If you're super young, then it's hard to think about retirement right now. But so I think.
Well, here's the thing people need to remember is that you are in the driver's seat of your life, right? Mm-hmm. So when you are playing the game, you just have more choices. I for sure thought I was going to work to 100 years old. I still might. I'm just kind of a worker person. I like doing it. I like what it does for me. I love it, what it does for other people. I just like working. So I'll probably work forever. What I'm doing might change over time.
Right. Yeah.
But what's happened for me personally, which is why I'm so passionate, or one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this is the simple fact that I can retire today, technically, for sure, allows me to work with who I want and nobody else.
Yeah.
Do it when I want, not when I don't want to, because I'm doing it for my why now, not because I have to. Yeah. And there's a big difference there that people miss out on. And so people say, well, hey, listen, I don't want to, that feeling of control, or I can't do what I want to do right now. And I don't want to climb Kilimanjaro when I'm 70. I want to climb Kilimanjaro when I'm 25, right?
Yeah.
Then I get that. And so there's a very fine balance here, or a balancing act for sure. But just remember, you can change your trajectory. But having no plan and having no goal, and certainly not executing anything, even if you had a plan or a goal, is not getting you more out of life than you want to get out of life. People demonize money, going back to the taboo element of it. They demonize money.
Yeah.
But let me be clear. I know a lot of rich people. They have for sure given away more money to help others than all the poor people I know. I don't know how else to say that. So these demonized rich people are bad people. No. Yep. They're the ones that stroke the big checks to change organizations.
To change lives.
They just are. So you don't demonize it. It just gives you more choices. And if you want to earn billions of dollars in your lifetime and give it all away and don't give it to your kids, awesome. There are billionaires that do that. They skip their kids. They just give it away to organizations and charities. So, but the money does buy you options.
It does buy you options. I think. Yeah.
Moving on.
It's super cool. It's a very good transition of thought process, I think is the only thing I would say is, all the contradictory of, you work, spend your money because you've worked hard to earn it and do what you want and you only live once and you don't die with it. All the things that you've already mentioned. Okay. That's part of it. But like having this control is just a different way to live. And it's very rewarding and it's very, there's almost a sense of calm that
when you have bumpers and bumper bowling, you still get more strikes.
Ooh, boom.
You never ever get you never ever hit the gutter for sure. You get more strikes. It's that simple.
Just drop that mic. Point landed.
So, I don't know. The game matters. We'll tell you the negative side of those things too, because I do believe very strongly in celebrating along the way, which we'll go into number 9 that we're not at yet. We're at number 8. But I know a guy that he was so frivolous. Sorry, the opposite of frivolous. He was so...
frugal.
Frugal, thank you.
Yeah.
He was so frugal his whole life with his kids, with his spouse, with everyone. And the only thing he ever wanted to do ever was go on a cruise in Alaska. And he had never traveled ever on vacation because he was so frugal.
Wow.
And he saved all this money. He saved a lot of money. And he finally retires. And he retires older. He was like 70. He finally retires. And so the first thing he wants to do is he wants to take his wife and kids and grandkids on a cruise in Alaska. And so they go on this cruise, and on the second or third day of the cruise, he drops dead of a heart attack. Right?
No.
So I am not saying that you don't do anything along the way, because I could be hit by a train tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lightning happens. Shark bites, even though I'm a big diver, they do happen occasionally. But at the same time, if you don't keep those bumpers up, then you will for sure have a shitty end of life experience. I've got family members currently that get state assistance for housing, that the money that's received from Social Security is not enough to cover the bills. Ugh. And when you start adding in medical expenses too, this is a lot of American stories. And could it have been prevented? I don't know, because some things happen that you can't foresee. I mean, life events do happen. But could there have been a better outcome than what she currently has? For sure. Right? There were lots of choices that were never made earlier on in life. It was just never addressed. It was never worked on. It was never played. Yeah. That she's, it's just not fun right now. Right?
Yeah, no.
And so I'd rather have 100 years of decent than 3 great years and the rest of the years not, right? I don't know.
Intentionality in the game.
Absolutely. So number 8, you have to create that, the minimum, right? Like, what is the absolute minimum you're going to save? So using that wealth escalator we talked about earlier, whether it's $1,000 for you, or maybe you're 20 and you're listening to this right now and $500 is all you need. Great. Good for you. Good on you. Or maybe you're saving for your kids' retirement. So you start giving them $250 at age 1 and you do it all the way through, right? We've talked about that as well. My point is that what's the minimum, and make it the minimum. The rule, not the I hope, right? The rule of money that was taught to me is that you must save 20% and never touch it. Save 20, whatever your paycheck is, save 20% and never touch it. And so when you look at your final W-2 for the end of the year, or if you're self-employed, you look at your final adjusted gross income at the end of the year, take that times 20%, you saved it or you didn't.
Yeah.
Now,
Where do you
back,
put it? Where do you?
well, the where is a financial planning question, and so not being licensed to sell goods, stocks, bonds, such, I can't literally answer that. What I can tell you, and we'll go into a lot more detail in a different podcast, is, ABCs 1, 2, 3 are: you set up a float account, you pay off all your debt, you max out your 401ks, IRAs, SEPs, any tax deferred or tax free stuff next. After that, you get into the market for sure. I believe that you get into the general market. So using, I'm not going to say which one I buy, but buying the market as a whole, not an individual stock, is super important when you're starting out. So mutual funds are the best answer for that, because you're not going to take a catastrophic loss if you bet on the wrong horse. You're betting on the market as a whole. The market as a whole has done really well over time. The closer to retirement you get, the less risky you can be. So age matters, and that goes back to risk profiles and talking with a financial planner when that time comes. Mm-hmm. I think that it's asinine for people to do all their personal investing on the side because they want to do a $7 per click purchase of a stock or an ETF. It's stupid. If you're not full-time with backgrounds as a stockbroker,
I didn't know you could do that. I'm like,
oh, dude, yes, you did. You know that you can go to E-Trade and go buy for, I think it's $6 or $7. You can buy any stock you want for $7.
Oh, okay. No.
Awesome for you, but your full-time job is marketing.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So why would you risk your retirement on, I want to save some money in commissions, so I'll just pay the $7.
Oh, that's the idea behind it?
Yeah. That's literally the idea.
Fun?
Yeah. Well, people like to gamble. Now, there are people that are appropriate day traders. Like, they literally study the craft. They read it all the time. They have some background in it. Or they're not risking more than 10% of everything. That's their play money, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But going back to the answer, mutual funds next. I think that you do mutual funds personally until you're about $500,000 in the bank. At that point, then you can start getting into some individual stuff. I think after that, you're working on significantly paying down or paying off your mortgage. Okay. Because in retirement, you want the lowest fixed expenses possible. So having no mortgage payment, which is the biggest expense, is a great thing to have by the time you retire. It'd be the whole point. And that's kind of the progression over time, right? So it's not a direct answer because everyone's age is different. Everyone's risk tolerance is different. But that's the general idea is ABC 1, 2, 3, kind of work through, have some savings reserves, pay off your credit, start saving tax-free first, tax-free, tax-deferred second, then invest in the general market, then pay down your house. That's the order. Cool. But 20% is the number. So again, if you're not saving 20% off whatever your current income is, gotta
start cutting, right?
Cut. /burn. Change. You got to change your living styles. You can go without the new phone for an extra 2 years. You can fix the car and stay.
Or make more.
Or make more.
Or
both.
More.
Or both.
Or both.
Ideally both.
Yeah.
Right. Ideally both. And that's why this day and age, so many people have a side gig. Mm-hmm. Like the side gig could literally be the difference of $1,000 a month to save the $240 every 20 years to save $480 to $960 by the time it doubles. Like, just think about that.
Say that again.
So. Well, you said the wealth escalator, right? I said save $1,000 a month for 20 years. Mm-hmm. 20 years is $240,000. It doubles to quadruples in that period of time. So it's
That's true.
$480, $960. That $1,000 a month matters. Like, how many Uber drivers are there?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're making an extra $1,000 on the side. I've had an underwriter that used to work for me that at the mortgage company, an underwriter, and some of my employees were flying in from out of state. And the Uber driver was the underwriter.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, dude, you make a lot of money. He's like, yeah, but I was driving anyways.
You're going home anyway.
Like, what a great answer. It's like you can be paid $20 to drive home in the general direction, or you can pay your gas bill. Like, which one's smarter? Yeah. If that's the difference of you hitting your goal, why wouldn't you do something like that? Yeah. As long as you're safe. And I'm not condoning Uber. I'm not promoting Uber. I'm just seeing that as an example.
This is not an ad. Yeah,
I've got a girl in our office, Justine, that she's an awesome employee, and one of the things that she does is she sends out. She's a great cook. She loves to cook. It's part of her hobbies. It's part of her passions.
She's gonna be cooking anyway.
She'll be cooking for herself anyways because she doesn't eat out as much. She wants to eat at home and do healthy stuff. She knows that I like to eat healthy stuff.
Yeah.
So she came to my office one day and said, hey, if I start cooking you your food, would you pay me $8 instead of eating out? I said, hell yeah.
Hell
As long as I want veggies and I want meat. You get those two things together, I'm buying it. Well, now she's got several people at the office. So every time she makes food, they're all paying for it.
Yeah.
She's doing something like that. Extra difference is the game, right?
Yeah.
So very good.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Number 9, you must establish rewards and penalties. So this was one of the things you were starting to allude to that I cut you off on. But if you go back to implementation and, you talked about, God, there's no tie to 65, right?
Right.
You're a spring chicken and you're 29. I get it. There's no tie to being 65. I get that. Like I woke up one day and I was 40 and I was like, holy crap, I'm halfway dead. Right?
Such a mess with your age.
Everyone deals with it different. 40 was an interesting year for me. I had my little midlife crisis. It's over. We're moving on.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
But my point is that this is where it's appropriate to tie in a reward or penalty for hitting your goals or not. So when you're saying, Josh, like, okay, I'm working really hard. Like, when do I go on vacation? Mm-hmm. Or when should I buy that car? Or when should I do this nice thing for my spouse? Or when should I, buy this new clothes or this purse that everyone has to have, or whatever the answer is. Tie it to a savings goal. When you save X, then you allow yourself to do something special.
Yeah.
But focus on the savings first. And this will force you then, like, let's just say that, just use your $1,000 number because we've been using that a lot.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month's your savings. Okay. So let's say in 6 months, you've now saved $6,000. You're on track. We've measured it. We're hitting it. We're really saving the 1,000. We're not saying we're saving the 1,000 and charging a little bit on the side.
Which is such a good amount. I mean, when you just say $6,000,
it's game changer for most people, right?
It is. Yeah.
So now we've got $6,000 saved. Okay. Now I want to go on vacation, but now think about the mental battle that you now have to say what's appropriate for the reward.
Right.
Are you going to go on a $6,000 vacation? $6,000 vacation?
7,000, baby.
Right. This is what most people do because they don't think about it in the first place.
That's why I'm here.
Right. And that's why you don't do that anymore. But my point is that then you say, well, shit, I worked so hard to save the 6,000. I want to do something for myself, but what's appropriate?
Right.
Well, maybe you allow yourself to give $500 or $1,000 deal, or whatever.
Or you'll work harder to find
the extra 500 to 1,000. Yes. But it forced you to think about it. My point is tying rewards or penalties to hitting or not hitting the goal are super important. So my coaching students know this about me, that I'll just go through the list. Anytime I've put a weak goal out there as far as a weak reward, I never hit the goal. Right. So meaning like, if I'm just trying to think of a recent example. I don't have a recent example. I've got to go back a few years.
Just do the weight loss one.
Well, that's the penalty though.
Oh, the penalty.
So I'm doing rewards first. So
do you do rewards? I feel like you're all.
I don't anymore. No, that's why I don't anymore.
Penalty.
Well, the watch was a big reward, so I'll do that in 1 second. So a small one would be, I used to be a pen guy. That's a good one. So really nice writing instruments. Writing instruments is what they're called. Could be about $200 to $500. Yeah. I mean, there's really crazy ones out there, but for $200, I mean, it's a pen. $200 is a lot of money, right? So I used to do rewards like if I do X or I save X, I'll buy myself a Mont Blanc. Okay. And if you look at my drawer, I've got plenty of Mont Blancs, which is interesting because I stopped hitting the goals. And I was like, screw it. I got plenty of Mont Blancs.
You got plenty of pens.
But so the reward wasn't big enough for me to go do it. Like it just didn't matter anymore. But when I had a reward like I'm going to take my kids on a ski trip was one that I did like 3 years ago, 4 years. The first ski trip. So there's probably 5 years ago now. That was like when I hit these goals, I'm going to take my family on their first family ski trip. Super cool. I took it a step further and I also told them.
That's the kicker.
Right. So now I told him. So now if I don't do it, it's not only a big reward, but it's a big consequence.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to look my little girls in the eye and say, "Baby, I can't afford this. Like I can't take you." Right.
Dad.
Right. So, but that's an example on the reward side. The consequence side is equally important. So on the big rewards, I hit most of them. 70-80% of the goals I'd hit if I put a big reward out there.
And it also tying into telling everyone.
Yes.
Like you got to tell them because it's
everyone knows about
of people you have to go around and say, no, I didn't hit the goal.
Yep, that's right. So now we go to the consequences, which are, for me, more effective. So most people will just do without on the rewards or consequences. I believe in making them big and horrible, right? So whenever I did a weak consequence, then I would never hit the goal again. Whenever I did a horrible consequence, I've only missed it once, ever, in 15 years.
Which one did you miss?
I wasn't allowed to hunt last year.
Last year?
I did not hunt last hunting season. I took a lot of people hunting. I have a ranch.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I have a ranch. I hunt. I'm a hunter. I'm sorry if you're listening and you're not a hunter.
I feel like...
But I am a hunter. I eat what I kill. Don't worry. But I was not allowed to hunt last year. January 1st of 2019, I ate Bambi, for sure. But
Jesus.
2019... I did not shoot a single animal. I did not hunt anything because I did not hit my goals, right?
You must have been in deep depression about that because I did not know that.
I didn't hit my goals, and I held myself accountable.
Excuse me, sir. I don't feel like you told enough people what your goal was, so we can help
That's
you get
possible.
there.
No, that was a business goal, right? Income, use, and volume. We were off, and so, but I hold myself strong to those. So going back to you had asked about the weight loss thing. There's 5 years ago, 4 years ago now, probably, there's a group of us that are all coaches that all had we were all puffy. We'll just call it that. We were all at least 20 pounds overweight. Most of us were 50 to 80 pounds overweight. We got a little bit fat and happy, literally. Okay. And so we're all sitting together one day and we're looking at each other like, dude, you're a little puffy. And everyone looked back and like, dude, you're puffy too. And so we made this goal. We said, hey, in 6 months, we're getting back together. In 6 months, let's all put $500 on a bet that you lose 20 pounds. If you lose 20 pounds, you don't, you don't have to pay. If you don't lose it, you do have to pay $500 for everyone, right? Now, mind you, the audience that's listening, all these guys, they're all fairly wealthy. Like they're like, when I say this, I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. So, bottom line was, we wake up 6 months later, we all go, we meet, we look at each other like, dude, you're pretty puffy. You owe $500, and it was the same answer for everybody. No one had lost a single pound. For the group,
screw it. I'd rather
drink really nice wine and have a nice steak than lose the 20 pounds for $500, right? Totally. So we're sitting there talking about it, and that's when I realized how important a bad consequence is. And so that's when I said to the group, I said,
and someone to hold you accountable,
to really follow through on it, right? So literally, I looked at the group. I said, cool, I'm in for 10,000. So what I did is I bet all the other three guys, I bet them all $10,000 a person to lose 20 pounds in 6 months. And when we showed up 6 months later, 100% of us lost the 20 pounds.
Because there's just no way you're going to write a $10,000 check.
It was going to go to charity, by the way. It wasn't going to go to them. But you're absolutely right.
Right. But it doesn't even matter, though. If you have someone that's going to absolutely make you write the check.
Yep. I wouldn't be able to, first of all, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror. Second of all, my wife would look at me like, you did what? Right? Like, just tell her and she'll just,
I think that right there is the importance of an accountability, someone who's actually going to make you do it. Because there's plenty of people that, you're going to, you can't hunt again, or you have to wash my car for a month and then let you off the hook.
Yep.
Right? Like, they're not going to make you wash the car for a month. So finding somebody that is really going to make you write the check, that's really going to make you wash the car for a month for not doing it.
Yep. It's real.
It's real. Yep. But
that's the whole thing is I do think that whatever your goals are, you should reward yourself. Yeah. But when you set aside what you're going to reward yourself with, put out a time frame, budget it, make sure the budget's appropriate, make sure it's a goal that's exciting to you.
Yeah.
And this will help you implement. This will help you execute. That's what this whole thing's about, right?
For sure.
Number 10 is a controversial one for most.
Did you?
Okay. Oh, you know what I'm about to say. I'm almost going to say the Nike slogan, but I'm not. Number 10 is at some point, rule number 10 is effing do it.
Oh, yeah.
Effing do the work, right? When it really comes down to it, if you're listening, it's been an hour and a half, right?
Has it really?
Almost, hour 15. If you're still listening to this, it means that there's something in your personal money world that is not working, or you wouldn't still be listening, right? Yeah. There's something that drew you to this podcast, and at some point, you just got to effing do it, right? We all know how to save money. It's to not spend as much as you earn. That's how you save money.
Have some self-control.
Self-control.
That's what I believe it is, because, I...
Don't keep up with the Joneses.
Like, I can say that because I know that is where most of my problems lie. Yep. Like, I am a really damn good salesperson, especially when it comes to myself.
Yep. You can sell yourself anything.
I can sell myself anything. I could justify anything.
Yep.
Anything. So that's where it came from for me. It's like, have some freaking control. What is wrong with you? Like, get your shit together. What are you doing? And when you hear enough people say the same damn thing over and over and over again, why do you think why do you think that's the case? Come on. Let's get it together already. Just freaking do it. Buckle down and be bigger and better for it, I think is what, live intentionally. You read the success books, they all say the same thing, right? It's
there's different versions of the exact same thing. It's so interesting to me how many people go through goal setting sessions, or they take account of their life and they're exactly where they were 3 or 5 years ago. Or they go to a seminar and they write down something and they're like, damn, I remember hearing this 3 or 5 years ago. And so it's not that people don't want more for themselves. It's not that people don't want more for their families and their loved ones. It comes down to number 10, that they just don't want to effing do the work. Because it is work. It's not fun, especially when you start off. It becomes fun when you start winning at money.
Yes.
It does become fun. Trust me, guys. It does become fun. When you can write a check to a charity and it turns out it's the biggest check to the charity, that's a really great, fun day. It just is.
Absolutely.
When you can go on a bucket list trip at age 30 or 35 because you can afford it and it's not going on credit card, you write a check for it, that is fun. When you can actually pay for your kids' college and not have them have the same stresses that you might have had because you had to pay for college, that is fun.
And so, when you feel control around an area, it's almost like, you're like the wheel of life, like we talk about with the 7 areas of life. When you feel in complete control over an area, that feels good. That's fun. It's almost like, one less thing to worry about. Almost. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time worrying, quote unquote, because
you have attention on it.
Because you have attention on it, but it's positive worry. It's not negative worry of, holy crap, what's going to happen? I don't have to worry about that because there's a plan in place for that piece. Yep. So now I can focus on something else and get that shit under control.
That's right.
And then that one under control. It feels good. It feels very good.
Well, the reason why I wanted to do this is there's not going to be a whole lot of new stuff that people learn in any money show or any money podcast, right? There's basic thing. Like I said, you want to save more money, spend less. Spend less than you earn, you will save money, right? So I could stop there and you would have a better life moving forward if you just followed that rule. But the implementation process is the hardest part.
It is.
I recognize that, doing something about it, what to do, how to do it, at what pace to do it, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Yeah. Those are all just learning lessons that you can, tweak the outcome. And it's about having the ideal life. To me, when you start mastering money, whatever that means to the viewer, it's about having a better life, creating a better life for your family and friends. It is not the only thing for sure, but it absolutely buys you options, and the options are great for everybody. So anyways, I'm thinking we're going to wrap it up there.